If you can find another way to bond with people, go for a strenuous hike. Go do something that pushes yourself outside of your comfort zone, because in those moments where you're vulnerable, that's where you bond. And that's what happens with alcohol and weed. It's like the cheap way, the easy way to make people feel vulnerable with each other.
We're live. Peter, he's in the building. The man, the myth, the legend. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. I'm great. Missing you.
First off, thanks for jumping on this podcast. This was very, very just improv. We were just speaking on the phone and I was ranting about a lot of issues that I'm currently going through in my life. And I was asking for your opinion because you're someone I look up to, and just pretty much many aspects of life. We've had some pretty savage stories together. You were the reason that I moved to Medellin, Colombia. You were definitely the convincer there. And it was one of the most epic experiences of my life. I've always been fond of how you have just been traveling around in so many different countries, literally just like motorcycling, just cruising, living the simple life, but at the same time living in danger. I mean, your stories are insane, and we're here, and I'm grateful that we've been friends for so long. And I'm also very grateful because you just know me so well, right? And we've known each other for quite some time, and ever since college. I think we should just start that off. Like, do you remember how we first met?
Do I don't, but I remember some flashes of the first time we met. Like, I remember you were living in the PBG frat house. I remember coming into the frat house, and I mean, you've always been the life of the party, and you immediately welcomed me into that family because I had transferred to UNH. And so I got there sophomore year. I didn't know anybody. And oh yeah, of course, you were living next to me.
Hetzel,
what was that?
baby.
Hetzel, yeah. Man, that was awesome. But yeah, I really appreciate how you welcomed me into the PBG community and also the UNH community. You were one of the first people I ever met there. So, man, it's been a long ride.
And when I took a year off of school and came back to finish it out, it was just like me, you, and Vinny, like for the most part. Like that's who we hung out with like the entire year. Brian Morin, shout out.
Yep.
But it was a good time. But ever since then, you've been traveling the world. And tell me where you're living right now.
So I currently live in Oaxaca, Mexico. I've been in Mexico for, I want to say, close to 2 years now. But over the past 4 years, I've lived in Colombia and in Guatemala as well. But yeah, Oaxaca is where I call home right now.
And what was the reason you went to Colombia in the first place?
That's a great question. To be honest, it was because of a Tinder date. So when I graduated from UNH, I decided to move to Asheville, North Carolina. I didn't know much about it, but I thought it was a cool, artsy, mountainous, just a great place to explore. And when I was there, I ended up going on a Tinder date with a girl from Mexico. And then she introduced me to all of her Latina friends. And I met the girl that I soon called my girlfriend, Paola. She's Colombian. And then one day, we were talking about the fact that she would have to go back to Colombia. And I was happy with my job, but a little bit unsatisfied. And I wanted to do something a little bit more adventurous. And I made a joke with her that I was going to be, try to get a job in Colombia, but I thought it was really impossible. And one thing that I think is good to mention here is that for people who haven't lived abroad, the idea of moving to a country, especially to a country where they don't speak the language, it seems almost impossible. There were so many questions about how can I find a job where I just need to speak English, but it's in a country that speaks Spanish. But through my network on LinkedIn, I actually found a job in Medellin. And within 1 month, I had a flight down to Medellin. So it was a really rapid change. And that led me on this journey, kind of bumbling through Latin America, purchased a motorcycle, traveling around, working remotely. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's the most PG way of him saying it. I mean, Peter, you live life. You're one of the most intelligent people that lives life on all levels. You fire on all cylinders, right? Mm-hmm. From a business perspective, you're incredible. When you focus on something like a task, I remember that thing you did when you in Asheville, where you like created a whole program where you were teaching people through art on how to,
Mm-hmm.
expand their mindset. And like when you're focused on something, you're all in. And sometimes that goes on the opposite direction too. When you party hard, right? And that
Yeah.
a lot of that for sure is behind you at this point in general,
Right.
just because we were speaking about this on WhatsApp right before this. Like we grow so much and change so much as we age, and who we were 5, 6, 7 years ago is just night and day different. And a lot of that has to do with body chemistry as well. But beyond that, you're just always out here sending it. You're not scared of the danger. I mean, just recently you had your motorcycle stolen on straight security camera.
Man, I want to mention a few things about that, because this idea that I'm sending it on all cylinders, I think it comes from a place where I've always wanted to challenge myself more than I was being able to be challenged in my environment at home. Growing up in New Hampshire, everything was great. Everything was comfortable. And you're also this type of person. That's why I think I'm, attracted to you as a friend, and also somebody I look up to. But it's like we want to challenge ourselves because we know that once we challenge ourselves, we grow. Every single time we do it, we grow so much more. But I've been recently reading a book called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but the basic premise is that our Western societies, we've kind of lost the ritual processes that help boys develop into men. And oftentimes those ritual processes, which are really varied throughout the world, but something that they have in common is that they help boys make the transition usually through something that's very difficult, very scary, could be very painful, whether it's a hallucinogenic experience, whether it's, I forgot which culture or tribe does that thing where they do like bungee jumping from vines. Have you ever seen that? They like build this huge structure and then they just like send it off of this 40-foot, 50-foot high structure, diving at the ground. But the point is here that I think in our society right now, we have a lot of young men that don't have enough fear in their lives to challenge themselves. And that sounds crazy that we don't have enough fear in our lives, because we do have a lot of people that are stressed or anxious, have a lot of fear in some respects, but not a positive sense of fear. We live in such a comfortable world. We have everything provided for us. And I'm obviously speaking to people in like the first world who have a lot of things going for them. So I feel like in my life, once I made a couple big moves that challenged me, I started to crave that more and more. And whether that's, randomly purchasing a motorcycle, I'd never driven a motorcycle before. I don't have a legal motorcycle license. I've still owned 2 motorcycles in Latin America. So that's going to be a challenge when I move back to the US and want to buy a motorcycle. I'll have to get a motorcycle license. But the point being is that I've found that every single time I've pushed myself outside of my comfort zone, that it's had tremendous return on investment. So that's kind of an ethos that I live my life by.
And you went there, you knew no Spanish, right? And
No.
you just started figuring it out. You took some lessons, but at the same time, you just started surrounding yourself with the people. And I think it's funny because you went out there chasing a Tinder date, right? Kind of, you sent it in that sense, but I'm pretty sure like immediately you guys actually broke up, right? And then you went down there to date someone, broke up, and then ended up redating again like 6, 7 months later.
That's
but
true.
You ended up meeting like the most amazing people from different countries that were so welcoming and cool. Like, what were your experiences like that?
What's crazy is you realize once you start living abroad, that there are so many people from other countries and cultures that actually share a lot of the most important values that you hold. Whether that's adventure, hard work. The people that I fall in with are usually people that are dedicated to working hard, are interested in business, are interested in technology. But the point is that when you travel, you realize how little the country where you were born matters. And I found a crew of people, of international friends, that I feel almost closer to than some of my childhood friends, because we've lived a lot of crazy experiences together and we just happen to share a lot of the same values. So I heard recently something from Sam Harris. I don't know if you're familiar with Sam Harris, but he said something really interesting, which is culture is like the operating system of society. And it made me think that when we're raised in our cultures, we often only see the paths for the trajectories for our lives that our culture kind of allows for us to experience or to have. But once you start experiencing other cultures, you start being able to pick and choose which culture fits you. And you start to see a lot more pathways for your life. So I don't know if that makes sense, if I'm being clear about it, but I found that idea fascinating, that culture is the operating system of society. And as you travel and as you expand and as you meet new people, you start to be able to change those cultures in which you see yourself in, which changes everything. So
Yeah, I mean, it makes complete sense, right? Life is about perspective. Perspective is a gift. And if you can chase perspective, your life is going to be so much more open to different ideas and cultures. It's like the melting pot effect, right? A little bit why I like Miami, because you get the South America effect in Miami. There's people from all over. But at the same
Miami was
time,
amazing.
when you're seeing people from Europe, from Denmark, from Sweden, from all these different places, and they're all chasing similar experiences, right? Going to Salinas, going to Romero, getting the bombest chocolate chip cookie with ice cream ever. It's fire. But what happens is like they change their entire perspective on just the people they're around, and they bust out of their shell. And if we don't bust out of our shell, we don't know. And if we're not challenged, we don't know. And the challenge thing is constantly just evolving. And I know I'm experiencing it, not you, but with my health, which you've been a big help for me with all that stuff. And I was picking your brain earlier because, you're a full-time vegetarian, correct?
Full-time.
Yeah.
I was vegan for many years, actually. I only recently started like really incorporating cheese again, but no eggs, no fish.
What was the start point for that?
It was actually a podcast. So about 10 years ago now, I was at UNH and I had just made like the transfer and everything. And I was pretty lost in what I wanted to do, or what I wanted to be. And I remember randomly finding this podcast called the Rich Roll Podcast. I'm sure people who are listening to this, a lot of people have heard of him. And I kind of attached myself to him as a role model. And I started listening to the podcast religiously. And long story short, he was an overweight alcoholic lawyer who ended up going vegetarian, vegan, becoming sober. And then at like his mid 40s became an ultra endurance athlete. And so his story, and then had this podcast with a bunch of athletes and fitness people, but health gurus, tons of different people. But the point is that his transition and his story later in life actually inspired me to start making different decisions earlier in life. I could kind of live vicariously through his experiences. And I decided to try vegetarianism, veganism, vegetarian for a month, vegan after that. And I just felt better. So I just stuck with it. It became kind of a habit. It didn't take a lot of willpower. I wasn't forcing myself to do something. I just kind of naturally fell into it. And it's been, 9 years. I was vegan for a long, long time, but moving to Mexico, there's cheese everywhere. So
nice.
I've introduced cheese again. But yeah, for me, it's not a religion. It's really, I don't necessarily care how other people eat, who I'm around. I'm not militant about it, but I've felt that it's been a great decision for my health. And so that's just how I live. It's just how it is.
Yeah. So right now it's Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday for anyone listening when this is being recorded. And I feel like absolute trash, full trash panda status. The reason I haven't been putting any podcasts out is because I have no energy. I am low. Because of this, what we'll explain is it sparks depression. It sparks lack of ambition. Gut health is so freaking critical to my life, to things I do, to the people I'm around. Everyone that listens to the show knows I'm all about it's a damn good day to have a damn good day. I'm all about being positive. And I'm grateful for that mindset, because even when my stomach's so messed up, I still do feel that and I strive to be that. But, I've been through a long health journey with the stomach issue called SIBO, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. It's essentially where you get too much bacteria inside of your small intestine. And what happens is the good bacteria doesn't kill, the bad microorganisms. And then they start piling up, creating different viruses. From there, you can get things like gut permeability and leaky gut. If food's not getting broken down, it's going past the gut barrier, which is like the smallest lining ever from what I'm reading, and then gets into your bloodstream. And when it gets into your bloodstream, it lights off so many different adverse reactions, right? There's two brains. There's the stomach brain, and then there's the brain. But 90% of serotonin, the chemical responsible for making us happy, is created inside of the gut. So if your gut is messed up, you can't be happy. Like, you can't physically be happy. You try to be happy, but you're not doing it.
So let me ask you this. Do you think, after everything that's happened so far with your health story, do you think that you could have changed something earlier, like let's say in college, or the way that you were eating, that would have affected this whole trajectory of your health?
Yeah. I mean, the more I learn about it, I could for sure have been better. I mean, I've learned new things, which we'll talk about, which I'm implementing. But I mean, as a youth of growing up, we were fed French bread pizza, cereals, bagel bites, all the bombest. Convenience was at the center of our universe, right?
Right.
It's not like our families are bad people. There was no studies or science or anything. So,
right.
we're feeding ourselves GMOs, high fructose corn syrup. And because of that, I read this study that without GMOs, we'd only be able to feed like a third of the population. But with GMOs, we can feed everyone. So even if you're buying whole foods, you're getting these GMOs no matter how you cut it. Like, even if you're being so good. So naturally in our food supply, there's chemicals that are not normal to our body that are added to our food that are weighing us down. So now you factor in things like eating just overall things that we know are bad, lots of sugar, lots of coffee, putting in different things that are weighing us down in terms of just our ability to break these things down. We're not incorporating enough fiber into our diet and things of that nature. We're not drinking enough water. Then you put in alcohol, right? Like we were both in college. Everyone who's listening here was in college. In college is the time to be a booze bag, drink a bunch of alcohol, party your face off, socialize, and explore. It's awesome. Great time.
Oh, I thought it was about learning. I missed that part, I think.
For real though. I mean, I truly think with college, it's like you learn by doing. Like, I can learn today. Just the other day, I've learned all about different plants, and because I decided to learn. You decided to learn. College to me is a social experience. Absolutely. For sure.
It is. It is.
But same thing with health. You don't change your health until it's too late. That's how it works, right? You don't know what you got till it's gone. It's how things work. It's how we're designed. It's the comfort thing, right? You aren't stoked that you have two legs until you lose one, right? You aren't grateful you have fingers until you lose one. You aren't grateful for your ex-girlfriend until you lose her, right? And then you're like, then the homie's got to reel you back in. In every element, you don't know what it is until you lose it. For me, it was the health. So right now I'm on day 8 of the elemental diet. Elemental diet is the only thing I have found through clinical studies with Cedars-Sinai Institute that's clinically proven. If you do it for 2 weeks at 80% chance, and if you do it 3 weeks, 85% chance of eliminating SIBO. And what's great is that it gives you a complete reset of the gut microbiome. It allows you to.
But what is it? Is it incrementally eliminating foods? Is it an elimination diet, or is it something different?
No. Elemental diet is the most extreme version of diets that exist. It's essentially the stuff they put in a feeding tube. So it's macronutrients broken down into the most easily digestible form. So you're getting all of your different amino acids and necessary things to live, all your different vitamins. So what I do
is you eating whole food, or you?
No.
You have to buy something.
I drink this.
That's
every day for 2 weeks. All day. Yeah. This and water.
What is it?
So it's your macronutrients broken down. So it's the different elemental formulas have different powders and different ingredients and things of that nature. I use integrative therapeutics. But
it's literally a powder that you purchase. That's pre-made.
Purchase powder. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and it's expensive. I mean, for like 7-8 bags, it's like $800, right? It's crazy. $900, maybe more. But
wow.
so it sucks. But more than that is not the elemental diet. Elemental diet obviously sucks. Like no one wants to freaking do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like people,
Mm-hmm.
food is one of the greatest things about being alive. Like whenever I think,
but you've done this before. This isn't your first time.
and
doing
that's
the
why
elemental diet.
that's why it's not killing me, because I know what to expect, right? In
Right.
general, when you know what to expect about something, your brain doesn't like take over too hard.
Right.
So I've actually done this 3 times. But for the past 2 months, I've been feeling shittier and shittier. My energy's going down. I just feel like my skin's breaking out. I'm itchy. I got acne on my face. My lips are dried. I got brain fog. In general, I'm tired and I wake up tired. My sleeping patterns suck. I have lower back pain and it's just been feeling worse and worse and worse. Just my health is deteriorating. And a lot of the times you look at people and you say, wow, you look really healthy, but really they're dying inside. Like you can work out 45 minutes a day and get like a cut body, but inside it's just like a chemical factory. So
yeah.
And when I first beat SIBO, I beat it the right way, right? I did the elemental diet and I started incorporating more healthy foods, eliminated sugar. Like I did a lot of good things and I was good for like 5 months. Like I was good for like 5 months. I put on 20 pounds. I was 152 at the bottom of my SIBO deal. And right now today,
that's insane.
I'm 172. And it's like,
wow.
I mean, just night and day, just like, look at this Jones, just looking
vasculated,
looking brolic. But it's terrible. And for people that don't know what it is, there's so many people. I made this video on YouTube talking about SIBO, just my personal experience, really not asking anything for it. Maybe like at the lowest cloud, I was just trying to like get people to follow the podcast. Like that's my call to action, but really I'm just sharing my heart about SIBO, right? Because I don't like being a gut health coach. Like that's not my thing. I'm not like, oh, I'm so stoked at talking about gut health. Like it doesn't stoke me, but it's part of my life, right? It's like if you had a tumor, you have to figure it out, which I did. It becomes part of your life. So anyways, let me just circle back. I started having these gut issues pretty early on. I think a lot of it had to do with eating the same type of foods too often. So,
like what?
Like brown rice, broccoli, and, like just if you're into working out, you do a protein, a carb, and a veggie, that type of deal.
Yeah. Like there's a lack of diversity. You're eating quote unquote healthy foods, but you're not eating a diverse set of foods.
No, I'm probably translating between 20 foods throughout the month, which is terrible, right? I didn't know that, but that's what I've been doing for like most of my, but they're healthy, sweet potatoes, like zucchini, all that stuff. But when I did that, I went to, I started having like symptoms of SIBO early on. They call it IBS when they don't know what's wrong with your gut. I had all the necessary medical checks and I was fine with everything. I don't have celiac. I don't have, I don't have
IBS is when you have to send a date home because you're going to fart all night, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's when
that's
it's
bad.
when it could be called the love finder though, because if you're dropping atomic bombs and she's still staying with you, she's the one,
True. Preach.
But when I went to Colombia, I was having such a good time. I was enjoying it. But eventually my stomach just started falling apart again. And that's really why I left. I was doing the low FODMAP diet, going to the grocery store there, and everything's in Spanish. And I don't even know what basura meant, like trash or like bag or bolsa. So I didn't even know anything. So I was like looking up on an app what food I can eat and then translating it. And it was just like a nightmare,
Right.
So, So I left and then I started doing this thing called Xifaxan. Xifaxan's like the best clinical drug to kill small intestinal bacterial overgrowth that currently exists. But it also
but that's so harsh, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not good.
Aren't those drugs like, I don't know. I mean, it always makes me nervous when I hear about those types of antibiotics because, you win some, you lose some, you're eliminating a lot of good bacteria maybe when you're eliminating. I don't know if that's true. I mean, I'm not an expert on this, but it always makes me wary.
Well, I'm really stoked on that dude, Mark B. I don't know, you know how to say his name better. Fiberfield, Mark Bina.
Will.
He wrote this Bolsewitz. He wrote this book called Fiberfield I'm reading right now. And he said that a lot of times with antibiotics, like, yeah, they'll kill the issue, but they also kill the good bacteria, and they seed you to create worse problems down the road. So avoiding antibiotics, avoiding ibuprofen, Motrin, all those things is going to be better for your health in general. If you can get that without that, that's much better.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that at the time. So I was doing some stuff, figuring it out. You know, I'm just following the protocols that our health system tells you to do. I'm just following the ladder, right?
Yep.
Following the ladder. Eventually, I'm feeling good. I'm living in San Diego. I'm crushing life. I'm surfing, just absolutely just living. San Diego is probably the best chapter of my life. Like, just healthy,
getting sun,
met great people, rollerblading every day, scuba diving. It was amazing. And eventually I got Lasik eye surgery. I've always wanted to get Lasik eye surgery my whole life. And to be quite frankly, it has always been, and I haven't told this ever to anybody, but I'm like totally over it now. So I can speak about it very confidently. And I'm very grateful and proud of myself for getting over it, because it was a nightmare. One of my biggest fears ever was something bad happening to my eyes. Like, have you ever had like a deep, dark fear?
Yeah.
Like something that just truly terrifies you, that you don't tell anybody, but like low key, it terrifies you. The way I live my life is that if something scares me that much, I try to do it and like get over it. You know, I conquer it. And that's what makes me who I am today. It's gotten me to the places I am today. It's a good,
it's like what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Run into it.
Yeah. You run into it. So I ran into this perfect storm, absolute perfect storm of LASIK. And this is what I meant. I'm sitting at dinner and I freaking hate contacts. I hate wearing glasses every day. I hate being so blind. It just sucks, right? I'm sitting.
I feel you.
Is your vision good?
No, I wear contacts too, and you can't imagine the shitty situations I've been on the motorcycle with the contacts, and then like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, you get like an eyelash.
Suck.
Yeah, you get an eyelash, but at the same time, they're unreal. They're insane.
Awesome, yeah.
They're incredible. Like, they're the coolest thing. Yeah, but it's like, I don't know. I kept thinking like, what's worse, touching my eye every day or just getting a quick laser and being done, one and done? Like, that's what I thought. I don't know. So I'm sitting at dinner with my great friends, the Long family. I love them. They're such good people. I was living with Jeff and Eric at the time, just renting a room. And both of their parents had gotten LASIK when it first came out. Like, when it was way more sketchy.
That's bold. Yeah.
And both of them have perfect vision today, you know, like in their 50s, like, and they were the biggest proponents, and had just recently, both Jeff and Eric had gotten it done by the same guy in the past year. And both of them had the best experiences ever. So I'm living with people that are like, this is the greatest thing ever. This is a no-brainer. Like, if you qualify, like, just see if you qualify. It's a no-brainer. I'm living with these people. It's a no-brainer. Still, I'm skeptical. I go on Facebook and I ask Facebook, I literally make a post like, hey, I'm thinking of getting it. Do you have any experiences? And I just get flooded with only good experiences, only positive. And I'm thinking to myself, like, shit, like, if I'm a betting man, I'm going to bet on this. Like, this is some serious social proof, you know?
Yeah.
I know that there's the horror stories that can come out of this stuff, but there is with every
I've never
surgery,
heard any.
You know?
Yeah, I've never heard any negative stories about LASIK. Yeah.
So basically, I ended up going to this doctor. I qualify. There's two different types. There's LASIK and there's PRK. LASIK is when you have like a big healthy eye. They remove the flap, do the surgery. It takes like 10 seconds. And they put the flap back and it's done. Literally the next day, you're good. It's insane.
Really? There's no recovery? I mean,
it's like
a little
you're
bit?
good. You're good. You can see 20/20 like the next day.
Wow.
It's insane. It's insane. Yeah. And then there's PRK, which is anybody can opt for PRK. PRK is technically a safer long-term version than LASIK because there's no flap, but it's a 6-month recovery process instead of 1 day. And it's also like, if you don't have a thick enough cornea, you don't even qualify for the flap thing. So you'd have to just do the PRK. And the PRK, they put a solution on your eye. It melts the top of your cornea. And I know that sounds terrible. And there's probably a better way of saying it, but that's what they do. They do the laser and then they put a contact on for 7 days as it heals under it. And it's so fucking painful. Oh my gosh. It's so painful. That like day 3 and day 4 is painful, not right after the surgery. Because you're literally, your eyes.
So long story short, you got PKR.
Yeah. So I got PRK, Lasik eye surgery.
PRK.
So, but I'm optimistic. I'm like, yo, look at me. I did it. I conquered my demon. I'm proud of myself, you know? But then, couple months in, it's kind of getting better, not much. 5 months in, so by 6 months, you're good to go. Like there's nothing else. 6 months in, my vision's effed up, bro. I am getting 3 terrible symptoms. The worst halos, which I still have to this day, and it's been one of the hardest things to conquer. But basically, if you have really large pupils, and I've always beat myself up over this so much, dude. I can't even begin to explain how mean I've been to myself over this little thing. Because if you have really big pupils and you get PRK, your chances of having halos go up substantially.
Mm-hmm. What are halos, first of all?
I could and I could blame the company, and I did for a while, because they just downplayed it way hard. They just downplayed it so hard. Like, yeah, there's a chance you get these halos, but it's only at night when you're driving. Like that's how they picture it to you.
What is it? What is it?
Halos is like, it's kind of like when you have water in your eyes.
Okay.
You get like starbursts everywhere.
Okay.
Or when you're driving and there's lights incoming and it's like lights diverting, that's a halo. So literally, if there's a light here, I see about this much light around that light.
Got it.
And what's
it's like the difference of having polarized glasses or non-polarized lenses.
I don't know if I don't think that's a good example. I think it's like, I think it's like, so there's different levels of halos in both eyes. This one is my good eye. This is my bad eye, but this is my good eye has more halos than my left. So what happens is your eyes are always equalizing. So if your pupils are larger than the surgery, it expands past the actual surgery. And what happens is it creates these infusions of light. So it's just like, imagine like a ghost around every light. That's a great way of thinking about it.
Okay.
And the brighter the light, the brighter the ghost, and vice versa. So if I look in the scar, like at night, it's a shit show, like a shit show. Like my eyes are permanently like this. The only solutions to help it are, there's this drop you can put in your eye. It's called Alphagan. It's actually for people with, what's it for? It's like glaucoma, and it shrinks your pupil. And it's been a lifesaver, but I only do it on special occasions now. I used to do it all the time, but like it doesn't feel good on your eye. Like it feels wrong, but it like shrinks your pupils, so I don't have them. Anyways, so that's one issue. And the worst issue, which is way worse than that, I'll tell you this, is I started having the most insane pain in my eyes. Insane pain. Like I can't even begin to describe it. Just excruciating pain. And I had no idea what it was. I went back to the Lasik people. They had no idea. I went to all these people. They had no idea. Eventually I was just like in the shittiest place in my life, because I didn't know what was going on with my stomach. My stomach was full-fledged crash. I remember I was at dinner in Santa Monica, like a company dinner. And I always had like gut issues, but I was still always like, yeah, I got this. Like, it's still a good day. Like I was still stoked on life until this one night, I seriously felt like my system just gave up. Like I hit it like a full just wall, and I fell, and I felt terrible.
But what happened? What happened when you were eating? What was that experience?
I started having excruciating headaches, like excruciating migraines. I found out later I had like my thyroid was acting up, Hashimoto's disease. My stomach was just in pain. I felt so depressed and sad and lost. Like it's like the soul was sucked out of me. I was so sad. And at the same time, I was having this insane pain I was having sciatica. And if anyone knows what sciatica is when you have an impingement in some way, shape, or form on your sciatic nerve, which runs from your spine down to your toes. And it's one of the most top 20 painful things you can have.
Yeah, I can't imagine that.
So it felt like pins and needles in my feet. And this was getting worse and worse and worse. And that's a whole nother issue, the sciatica thing. So I'm sitting at home. I have this insane pain in my legs. I can't sleep. My serotonin's gone. My stomach's gone. I'm having the worst bowel movements. Bowel movements are poop. Like my poops just looks like, I just went on a bender of drugs and alcohol for years. Nothing I'm eating's working. All like laxatives aren't working. Nothing's working. My eyes are in pain. I can't see straight. And I'm just miserable. I'm like, my life's over. I'm 20, I'm 25 and my life's over. I'm like, this is it. Like, how am I going to ever be in love having all these issues? How am I going to have a job? How am I going to do my podcast? All these things are going through my head. I'm so sad, like depressed times 10. So eventually I found out a big breakthrough with my eyes. I saw this doctor at Tufts Medical Center in Boston. I came home one time with my dad and I was just like crying. I was just so sad. And he said, we got to find a new plan. We got to find a new plan. And he finds this doctor in Tufts, and they get me in literally the next week. I don't even have the insurance. I had an HMO, not a PPO. And then, like, I guess you could say, like, law of attraction, started hooking it up. I met this amazing doctor, Dr. Helen Wu. She's literally like my lifesaver. I love her. Her and Dr. Hamra. And what they did is they had this machine called a confocal. In confocals, there's only 10 confocals inside of the United States. Confocals are these unbelievable instruments, and there's 10 at the time, so I don't know if it's more, but literally it's a microscope that takes pictures of the nerves in your eye. So they put like jelly on your eye, like you're getting an ultrasound, and they put a freaking, like they put a microscope on your eyeball with this
Just
jelly.
like right on.
It's more intense than getting LASIK, like when they do it. I've had it about 3 times now. And they take pictures of the nerves. So then when we had the pictures taken, we did all this stuff. She said, your nerves like aren't growing. You have inflammation in the eye. So your nerves aren't regrowing. And that's why you're having neuropathic eye pain, which like it got a lot of unnecessary praise because essentially like there's reports of people killing themselves because of it, of getting like the proponents against LASIK because the pain's so much and they don't know what it is. And I see, they never thought about killing myself ever, like never have thought that, but I could see the misery that people could go through. So she said they put me on Lotamax, like 6 drops a day, and serum tears. So they take blood out of your body and they create eye tears, kind of like stem cells. So 14 times a day, I'm putting eye drops in my eyes for about 1.5 years straight, 14 times a day. These drops have to stay refrigerated. So I'm carrying like a flask with me with these drops, and it's pretty sick. I mean, they create like tears out of your blood, and the idea is that it sparks the regeneration.
Helps regrow,
yeah. But why did I have that in the first place? My gut. That's why. The gut is the reason. The halos is my fault, but the other thing is for sure is the gut, right? And I eventually found out I had SIBO. And when I did find out I had SIBO, I did like Xifaxan, I did an elemental diet, and it changed my life because I told my dad, I can handle one of these beasts. I can handle sciatica, I can handle my health, or I can handle my eyes. I can't do all 3 at the same time. I can't do it at the same time. It's too much. Eventually I got my gut figured out, and the eyes were still a pain in the ass, but like it took a huge burden because I was finally able to like process food and have bowel movements and like actually poop, and just be normal. My skin started clearing up. I started putting on some weight. Eventually my eyes, over time, I lost that neuropathic eye pain. And then I just had the halos, and I'm very grateful and proud of myself because today I don't even take the drop. I've been dealing with it for 3.5 years now or something like that, like 3 years, that I've just kind of like, I'm not scared of it anymore. It's just kind of part of my life. Like I have crazy shitty night vision. And it's like, whatever. Like I don't go into like a fear. I used to go into like every time I'd see a halo, I'd become so affixed on it, which is anytime I wouldn't go out at night, dude. Like that's how bad it was. I would keep light on as late as night because I was so scared of the reality that my eyes were just permanently damaged. Like it was terrible.
I can't imagine that. It sounds so scary.
Yeah. And like, I'm just like sitting here, like I decided to do this.
So what's the deal? What's going on right now?
So my eyes today are fine. And then eventually,
I mean, you're still dealing with, you're still seeing halos, of course.
Yeah. But I don't have any neuropathic eye pain anymore, which is amazing. It's literally amazing. So the nerves last I checked, the inflammation was down significantly and they are slowly regrowing. I have very sensitive eyes because of that too. Like I always have to wear sunglasses, but I'm very grateful. Like my eyes are figured out in my situation.
Besides all the health stuff that you've gone through, I mean, what do you think has been the biggest lesson you've learned in terms of how you treat yourself about this type of stuff?
That's a great question. But even before I say that, like the last thing I have to cover is like, I also had a tumor removed from my leg.
Oh, that's true.
And that's what was,
That's true.
and that's what was causing the sciatica. So I had bulging discs. I have bulging discs in my back, in my lower back,
Right.
but it's actually very normal, not normal, but to have bulging discs. Like a lot of people have bulging discs and never know. So they assumed that it was coming from that area. I am one of the smallest cases after 7 MRIs where they found a peripheral sheath nerve tumor on and around my sciatic nerve, like literally that big, small tumor, but growing on and around the most sensitive nerve. So then I had a doctor at UCLA, Ronald Reagan Medical Center 7 months ago, cut that thing out. And to this day, I still like have to sit with like, I can't put pressure on it because it takes like a year to regrow those nerve roots. So I have to like sit really awkwardly and it hurts. I don't feel like 7-8 inches of my leg, but it's gone and I can walk now. So, and I'm grateful and I can run and I can be healthy. So I'm just so grateful for all of that because I've never even told that story, but that was just a whole shit show and I can tell it better in another time, but that's a quick preview.
Yeah. So again, what do you think? Because through all of these experiences, I'd be also really down on myself. It sounds like you were. So what do you think these experiences taught you about how to treat yourself and how to talk to yourself about things that you can and cannot control, especially as related to health?
Control the controllables is everything. Number one, knowing is everything. You need to know what the problem is before everything. There's a great quote on one of the most famous hospitals. I forgot their name, but they just said knowing is everything. And it's true. You need to know what's going on. If you don't know, you start creating false truths about your future. You know what I mean? There's
a quote that I know and think about all the time, which is so similar, and I can't remember who to attribute it to, but it's spend 95% of your time diagnosing the problem and 5% of the time solving it. I think it was from the guy who is responsible for the OODA loops thought, but yeah, same concept.
Yeah, it's powerful. I mean, the number one thing is knowing. And then the number two biggest thing is making a plan. You need to have a plan. If you're not on a plan, you're screwed. If you think you've tried everything, you're done because your brain is the most powerful, mean person to you.
Right. Yeah, you have to have hope.
You have to have hope. Exactly. Hope is everything. If you have no hope, you're done. You just shrivel up and die like as a human. But if you're hopeful that you can find a solution, that they can figure it out, that you have a next plan, that you have future doctor meetings, you can go off of that and you can feed off of that. And that hope can heal your body and things like that. So the big thing is number one, know the problem, identify the problem. Number two, make a plan. And number three, like, I hate this whole thing of forgive yourself, but like, there's so many times I just so wish I never did it. And again, like I'm the first bad story you've ever heard about LASIK. That's for damn sure. Like no one's, but I wish I had never done that. And I think that we've all made really poor mistakes in our life, right?
Yeah. This may be naive, but were you compensated at all from the experience with LASIK? I mean, was there any?
You sign your life away when you get it.
Yeah.
I'll be quite frankly, I just sign. Like I read the iPhone terms and said yes, like.
Right.
I get it. I get what I'm signing. I'm signing saying that surgery is risky. When you sign a surgery, anything can happen. That's the fact. That's the truth. Like girls get boob implants and then like down the line, it can literally like cause them crazy infections and things like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I have a friend who's had very bad experiences with that.
Every surgery is going to have risk inherently. Like when I got my leg surgery, there was a 1% chance that I was just never going to be able to walk on that leg. Like a 1%.
Right.
Again, 99% chance, rolling them dice,
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't. And quite frankly, I was two things. I don't like doing that. I really don't want to ever, I don't like getting into lawyer stuff and legal battles and stuff like that. And number two, I just didn't want to open up that can of worms.
Yeah.
I was really upset about it for a very, very long time. Like I was so upset to the point where I felt like I gotten taken advantage of and just like, I think before you get LASIK, you should have to go through like a freaking 2-week seminar about the possibilities of what could go wrong.
Yeah.
I seriously think you should have to go through like a course to
Yep.
know that it's possible that what happened to me could happen to you,
Right.
because that shit was crazy, you know? So today I relapsed with my stomach issues. The last 2 months, first of all, my life's great. I'm living in Miami. I have my own place. It's so dope. I'm like, financially, I've never been healthier. My friends are great. I'm meeting great people out here. But just even the past 2 months, I've just felt like shit. And then I had this really bad sore throat, and I haven't done podcasts because my throat's getting bad. And, you know, I'm a social person. I'm a social Jones. I love friends. I love people.
Yeah.
And there's never a good time to solve your gut issues. So, you know, I'm still having a casual drink here and there. I'm still eating
Right.
and I'm still doing stuff like that. And I'm still just pushing through. Eventually, I'm like, screw it. I'm doing the elemental diet. And it sucks because I'm grateful I have friends and I have people that invite me out to go places, but like I have awesome things I could be doing today and tomorrow and the next week. And I can't do any of them because like I'm literally walking around with a giant jug of this shit all day. You know, it's like, but hey, I'm grateful about it. But what I've learned in the process, sorry for everyone that's listening and feels like I'm just rambling about my life, right? But what I've learned in the process is that with the gut, important things to consider. Number one, alcohol there's no studies that show that alcohol is actually good for your gut microbiome, right? There's things about red wine that like a cup of red wine, like 1 cup could be potentially beneficial, but everything else, there's no studies that show it's good. It's all bad. Diversity of plants and diversity of microorganisms is interesting to me. So I'm reading about how do I make sure I never have SIBO again? Well, a big thing is you have to treat your gut like a muscle, right? When you go to the gym and the first day you get back from the gym, you don't lift heavy like I freaking did because, you know, just naturally, you don't do that. It's stupid. You get injured, which I got injured. But you have to treat your gut like a muscle. You start with 3 reps, you get up to 4, you get up to 5, you get up to 6. With foods, it's like getting a little rep. So if you're like lactose intolerant, you can actually rebuild up your lactose intolerance by getting small reps at a time to build up your tolerance to that food. So if you start off with just a little bit of broccoli, just a little bit of asparagus, over time, you can grow the body to be able to take in more of that.
Right.
One of the biggest,
Seeding the gut.
which is so interesting, and diversity of plants is like the number one indicator that dude in that book was saying is the top gastroenterologist in the country basically said that the health of someone's gut microbiome is due to the diversity in their diet. So I found that really interesting.
Right. And even the healthiest, like the vegans, vegetarians, or whatever diet they're following, even the healthiest people in the US are still getting a very small diversity of different foods compared to some tribal cultures or foragers or people who just eat what they find, you know, hunter and gathering societies. So, I mean, we think we should follow these specific fad diets or vegan diet or keto or whatever it is. But if you think about it through the lens of a diversity of different sources, that changes the perspective on all of these different diets.
It's so interesting. And a lot of these cultures, for the first time, I think in the last decade, the human's life expectancy in the US has declined like 10 years or something.
And in the UK, I don't think it's that much, but yeah, for the first time, it's declined. Yeah.
It's declined, and that's insane.
Right.
And, you know, I don't know. It's different when you come to like diets and stuff, because like there's people that swear on keto and some people swear on just eating meat and just only meat. And obviously there's going to be, everyone's different. Something's going to work for everybody, and you got to do what you do. I think I'm just going to try this whole diversity of plants thing, like super diverse.
It makes eating really fun too, because you go to the grocery store and you're like, okay, I don't know how to cook this. I don't even know what this thing is called, but why not pick it up? And in Miami or in any kind of tropical place, there are so many fruits, veggies that are exotic and unique that are delicious, but you've never tried them before. I don't know if you have this thing called a sapote negro, but if you can find it, you should definitely try it. It's like chocolate pudding in just a fruit. It's amazing. Yeah, I had one for the first time the other day. It was awesome.
So they like put chocolate pudding in the fruit?
No, it's just that the fruit is like this soft green thing. And when you open it up, it's like pure black soft and it tastes like chocolate pudding. In my
Wow.
opinion, it's insane. But I was going to say that I've never had stomach issues as serious as yours, but I think it's pretty common that vegans and vegetarians, they may eat more diversity, but may not be that diverse in their diets. Like you can still be unhealthy and vegan and vegetarian. And I may have been walking that line as well, where I had like some gas problems and, I think it was because I was eating the same foods. But one huge thing that has benefited me recently is I stopped drinking alcohol a year ago now. We're coming up on 1 year, I think, in a week or so. So I know for a lot of people, quitting alcohol is super extreme. There's a lot of fear around how it's going to affect their social life. And, a lot of people just think it's not necessary. Like, why would I give up alcohol? But from my perspective, I made several bad decisions with alcohol. I don't think I was an alcoholic, but I definitely drank more than, a lot of people. You're smiling. I think you know some of the bad decisions I've made, but the point being that I think it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, emotionally and health-wise, spiritually, productivity-wise. I mean, quitting alcohol is like a superpower. It sounds so crazy, but not having those days where you wake up lethargic and those hangovers carry on, for me at least, they weren't just the next day. It was like days afterwards that I had less energy than I otherwise would have. And it wasn't until I just completely cut it out that I realized that. I'm like, man, I actually could go for a 10-mile run every day if I wanted to now, because I don't ever feel super lethargic or just a minimal, like a small level of lethargy or just depression or whatever that I think was being added into my life because of alcohol. So I would highly recommend that people take off some time from drinking, especially during COVID. It's so easy to fall into drinking more than you would normally.
I heard this thing by this one of these like business building type of dudes, and he was saying that anything you put in your body is going to stay in your body for 72 hours. Mm-hmm. So what you drink today or put into your body is going to affect you over the next 72 hours. So right. You have to think about that. Like the whole idea was, do I have M&Ms before I go to bed? Right. There was like this billionaire CEO, and she was asking him like, how do I cut my habit of having M&Ms sometimes before I go to bed? He basically said, well, those M&Ms, right? It was something so simple like that. He's like, those M&Ms are going to stay in your system for 72 hours, meaning it's not going to affect just tonight's sleep. It's going to affect the next night's sleep and the next night's sleep. Yeah. So before you make a decision, ask yourself, is it worth the next 72 hours to be affected? Right. Thought that was interesting.
I want to mention another thing that's hard to articulate, but oftentimes when people think about changing their diet or their lifestyle or making any decision, they think that the only way to do it is by applying a lot of willpower and like, okay, I'm going to gear myself up. I'm going to prepare myself. I'm going to make a decision and I'm going to follow through with it. And then what happens is when they don't follow through with it, they have shame. They get down on themselves about it, right? They're like, I told myself I wasn't going to drink. And now for a month, let's say, and now a week later, here I am having a beer at a bar. I'm, such a shithead. I can't believe I did this, just being so negative towards themselves. But for me, the way I was able to quit drinking or to change my diet was never through sheer willpower. I don't know how to explain it, but it wasn't like I made a decision and from that day forward, I never had alcohol again. I honestly think it sounds silly. It sounds kind of spiritual, but I surrendered to it. And I've almost received a gift of sobriety. Like it wasn't as if I told myself I was going to stop drinking and that was going to be it. It was as if I opened myself up to it and then it was finally able to happen. So I don't know if that's any benefit to any.
Well, I think the biggest thing about the sober thing is that it's the social element, right? Like,
that's a huge
for me, it's the social element that's tough. It's especially if you're in business and sales and meeting people. Because I don't know,
Right.
in my opinion, the two best ways that you can ever like really strengthen a bond with somebody is by either having a beer with them or smoking weed with them. You know, two things that after you do that, your relationship and friendship's just on another level. You know, it's
Right.
almost like a trust thing. You know, that's one reason.
That's so true, but that's I feel like that's our culturally accepted way of doing it, and that's like the cheap and dirty way of doing it, you know. But if you can find another way to bond with people, go for a strenuous hike. Go do something that's pushes yourself outside of your comfort zone, because in those moments where you're vulnerable, that's where you bond. And that's what happens with alcohol and weed. It's like the cheap way, the easy way to make people feel vulnerable with each other. And the funniest thing about alcohol is people become vulnerable with each other. They say stupid shit that they wouldn't otherwise say. You know, they do embarrassing stuff together. But it's just because they drink alcohol together. If you go on, I mean, I can't think of another good example, but if you go on a hike together, you're going to get to that same level where you're going to start opening up. You're going to start talking about your family. You're going to start talking about your fears and your vision and your dreams. That's where you bond. It's not because of the alcohol and the weed. That's just a tool. It's just the culturally accepted tool to get you to that place.
Interesting. You did a pretty like crazy experience that I would love for you to share with people.
Ayahuasca.
Yeah. Tell me about ayahuasca. You did it like the right way, like the way that I hear. I hear you got to go like deep into the jungles, and it's truly an experience. Can you tell us about like where you were before that, like mentally, what caused you to do it, and then what was the experience like?
Actually, at UNH was where I first had an experience with mushrooms, like a hallucinogenic drug. And after that, I had several experiences with mushrooms, with acid a few times. And I wasn't immediately the person who loved it and was like, yeah, acid is my thing, tripping out is my thing. And some people just, jive with it and really, really love that stuff. But I also, the perception shift that was afforded to me by doing mushrooms opened me up to other things like ayahuasca down the line. So when I moved to Colombia and I heard that ayahuasca was something that was pretty common and available to do on a retreat, I was open to it, but I made a decision that if I were going to do it, I was going to do it in the Amazon, in the jungle. I wanted to have the whole experience, not just do it in like a living room with some shaman guy. So I thought about it for years. I read a book on it. I listened to tons of podcasts. I mean, I'm sure everybody has heard some podcast with some person talking about ayahuasca, because a lot of people like to say that, oh, I did ayahuasca, now my life's awesome. You should do it. Everyone, ayahuasca is for everyone. That's not what I'm going to say, but I was open to the idea of doing it. And I met this woman named Claire, who is from Scotland, who is actually training to become a taita, which is a shaman. And I told her that if she were to ever go and do a retreat down in the Amazon, which she had done many times, but when she was going to do that, to let me know. And I would maybe say yes or say no. Well, about a year went by, and then randomly she hit me up and was like, hey, Peter, I have an amazing opportunity for you. The taita, the shaman that she studies under, for the first time, is going to allow me to bring a few foreigners down to his home and do it with him and his family. And this is a big deal because he travels all around Colombia and Spain and other countries putting on these retreats. He's an old man from an indigenous tribe in Colombia, on the border of Ecuador and Colombia. Long story short, I'm one of the guys that was able to go down with her. And so it's not like a formal retreat center in Peru, or, there are more formal centers that do this in the jungle. It was just going to be us and his family. So he's part of this people called the Kofan people. And to get down there, I had to take a flight from Medellin, Colombia, to a city called Pasto. From there, I took a 9-hour bus over the Andes and then down into the plains that go towards the jungle. Got to this other town, had to take an hour-long taxi ride. Then I had to take a 2-hour boat ride down the river. So we get to a spot with his family, and it's, you know, just as how you would imagine. It's just in the jungle, flat jungle on the side of the river. It's like everything is lifted up on pillars, on columns to avoid like flooding. And we're going to be staying there for 3 nights and just do ayahuasca together. So
How do you pitch your friends this?
well, they were brought on board from Claire. This woman had found 2 other guys. This guy he's an American, Jamaican American guy, and then this other guy from the Netherlands.
So you didn't even know him?
No, I didn't know them at all. No. We met actually on the taxi ride from this little town to go to the boats. But
what was your first impression?
It was cool. Man, I think we're all excited. We're all just open to the experience. You know, you start, as you get closer to doing something like this, something that's so far outside of the norm, we were already bonded in that. You know, we wanted to have a good experience. We didn't want to create bad trips for each other. So we're just really positive about the whole thing. But what can I tell you about the experience? It's very difficult to put into words.
What do you do? Like, what do you do? You're sitting, like, I'm thinking you're sitting around a fire, and like a chieftain's going to come up. He's like, "Ooba chaka, ooba chaka, ooba."
Yeah, there is kind of that side of it, which is, so we actually spent the first day we got there, preparing it with him, which meant going out in their yard, the jungle, and picking the leaves and the root, chacruna leaves and the ayahuasca vine. So it's a vine and it's a leaf.
So it's
and
just
then they boil them together. Yeah. Indigenous plants there. And they boil the leaves together, the leaves with the vine. Takes all day. I mean, the strength obviously varies a lot depending on the potency of the elements, the ingredients, how long you cook it, all this stuff. I have pictures. I'll show you pictures sometime of us cooking it. But yeah, so you boil it together, simmer it down, and it becomes this really horrible tasting tea, essentially, like a dark brown tea. And we did it. I'm sure other cultures and whatever have different traditions, but we drank it, I think, starting at maybe 9 or 10 at night. And then you trip out for whatever, 4 or 6 hours, and then eventually sleep. It's hard to tell because you're, you know, out of it.
Is it tough with sleep schedules? Like, are you just like, is your body wanting to go to sleep, or does it just like?
No. You're not tired. Once you start feeling the effects, you're in it. You're in it. And these guys do it, I think they said every 3rd day for like their life. Like this, I mean, for them, it's like as common as having a cup of coffee or something. I mean, there's ritual around it. They take it very seriously, but it's something that they do very frequently. So there's so much depth and tradition and ritual behind it. But one of the coolest experiences was the fact that we had so many different generations there of his family.
Wait, so you're just drinking this tea though? Like you're sitting there, you drink the tea, and then like you just chug the tea, or do you slowly sip it?
I just drank it down in one gulp, and you could get more than one if you wanted to. Like they would offer you more. Oh, do you want more? Like maybe a half hour later or an hour later. But yeah, just took it was like a hollowed out gourd or whatever, like I don't know, like a natural cup, and then just, yeah, down the hatch. And then I would say maybe 30 minutes later, you start to feel, it's kind of like mushrooms. If you've ever experienced mushrooms, I mean, some people will say, oh, it's so different, but I mean, all things being equal, it's pretty similar.
So you're just like, everything's more vivid. You're like in your own head. Is it hallucinating, or is it more so just?
Yeah, no, a lot of hallucinations, The biggest difference I found between mushrooms and ayahuasca was, ayahuasca, I felt like I was encountering more people or beings, like more entities, I guess. But it's really hard to explain. I had one moment on ayahuasca that was the most salient, the most impactful moment. And that was on the 2nd day. Oh, you want to know something really sad? I took all of the like journal notes every single day I took copious notes and journal entries. I put them on my phone. And then when I moved to Mexico later, that phone flew off my motorcycle and I had none of that backed up. So I lost all of my like journaling from that time, which sucks. But anyways, from what I remember from memory, like on the second night, we always had a fire burning, and I went out and sat by the fire, and I was looking up at the trees around me, like the ring of black trees and the silhouettes of the trees. And these huge long silhouettes started coming out. They're as tall as the trees, and they were horrifying. Like there's that anime movie Spirited Away, like those, I forget what they call them, but they're these long
shadow figures of
like ghost like things, and
like kind of like the things that you see at like used car shops, so those things that like flap around like this, like that.
Actually, that's a great analogy to it, but just completely blacked out, and no arms, no, like just black silhouettes. And they started coming out of the woods towards me, and I was laying down next to the fire looking up, and they were so tall that just looking straight up I could see them encroaching on me, and I was terrified. I thought these
like
things
you were scared.
So scared. And I knew when you're on ayahuasca, it's not like you lose all sense of reality at all. That you've done ayahuasca and that you're tripping balls, like that this is happening, but still your emotions are affected by it. So you're hallucinating not just imagery, but also emotionally, spiritually. So these things that come around me, and then they started talking to me. And at first I was petrified, but then they started telling me that they're my ancestors and that they're always with me, behind me, like in this infinite trail of ancestors. So it's to make it more visual, you're at the front of the line of this infinitely long line of your parents, their grandparents, great grandparents, like this huge infinite snake of your lineage. And I'm there right now in my physical body, like manifest in reality. And all of these people are behind me, supporting me. And it was the most amazing experience to be talking with them. And it reminded me of that moment in, do you remember in Mulan? I think there's this moment in Mulan where she's like goes to this temple and she's talking with her ancestors.
I don't remember,
that part.
I don't remember that part.
They're telling her something like, I think you're making the right decision about whatever. I forgot the overall story of Mulan, but they were telling me that I was like the fire burning. I was the burning part, the manifest part in this moment in time. Like I was on fire living. And then soon I would become smoke like them. And then they just came and they crashed into the fire and they just went up in smoke. And I was like, holy shit. That was the experience that I came to have, on ayahuasca. Like this is what I was looking for. But with that being said,
what did they say to you?
That was it. They just
were you talking out loud? Are you like speaking out loud? So
no.
It's all in your head. Yeah.
It's all in my head, and they weren't really speaking words. It was just we were like communicating.
Energies.
Yeah. But with that being said, after my ayahuasca experience, it wasn't like, oh, I came back and my whole life had changed, and now I'm a professional athlete and never do drugs again, and I'm making $1 million a year. I hear a lot of these stories about ayahuasca that it was the silver bullet to everyone's problems, but really the way that what I found from that experience was it opened me up even more to different experiences, to more spiritual thinking, and it made me remember that I'm not just Peter, this one person on earth, like walking around. There's a huge lineage of people behind me that I represent and that are like looking out for me. So it was an amazing experience.
What about the other two? Did the other two have any, like the other two people you're with, were their experiences similar?
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to, I haven't stayed in contact with them much. I see them on social media and they look like they're like living life. But the experience that we had, I think it was maybe a week or two later, we had like a follow-up call together, and they also had, you know, brilliant moments on ayahuasca. And we had different experiences. Like some people, one guy, I don't think he had a very strong experience, at least for the first day or two. I don't even know if he really hallucinated the first night. And then another guy, he had extremely visual. I mean, from what he described, it was very, very visual for him the entire time. For me, it was visual, but it was also emotional. But yeah. Also, there was another experience during the whole ayahuasca retreat that was almost more special, if not just as special as doing ayahuasca. And that was that because I was going to go down and meet their family, this indigenous family, like Kofan people in the jungle. By the way, don't think of them as completely like this tribe. I mean, they have like cell phones and stuff. It's not like they're that remote. But I wanted to get the kids a gift because I knew I was going to be meeting up with some children. And so I was walking around Medellin, Colombia, like, what do I get these kids that live in the jungle that I've never met, that are from a completely different culture? I had no idea. You know, I'm so bad at giving gifts, or like thinking of a gift, especially for children. So anyways, just randomly, I purchased swimming goggles. I was like, oh, they live by a river. Like maybe they'd like goggles. I don't know.
What an epic gift.
Right. So I was really hoping that they would like it because again, I had no idea what they would like. I mean, would they see the goggles and be like, dude, we have 6 pairs of goggles in our house already. Like we live on a river. Or they're like, no, I've never even seen these things in my life. Like, what are they? So anyways, long story short, I gave them the goggles and they absolutely loved the goggles. I have pictures of them using the goggles. They use them for like 3 or 4 hours every day that I was there, just looking at fish, like in the river, swimming with them. It was a really cool experience, like a cultural divide in a way that, you know, I had no idea. I just got them goggles randomly and they just like absolutely love them.
So cool. Imagine
yeah,
that, like
really
you've
fun.
never been able to see underwater and then all of a sudden you just
I
see
know.
underwater.
Yeah.
That's a cool experience. Well done. Good gift giving.
Such a hack.
Maybe that's your next startup. Indigenous gift giving.
Indigenous gift giving. Yeah, we're in the business of just shipping thousands of goggles to people who live on rivers in the middle of nowhere.
I don't know. There's something there. I mean,
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Humanitarian initiatives don't always need to be just based on health and education. Like people need fun. There are so many cool things that kids in the US have, the cool, I don't know, Game Boy or whatever, that kids that living in such different economic situations would just love, you know, just increase their sense of wonder and imagination.
Wonder and imagination is the root of having a damn good day right there.
Yeah.
Having passions and having hobbies that drive you to look at new stuff and explore new worlds is the most exciting thing ever. Like if you don't, to me, like the most attractive quality in a human is their ability to be passionate about things, you know? Because that's what I want to hang out around, you know, like, yeah, for me,
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I've been able to have such a diversity. I've been exposed to so many different ways of thinking, ways of living, ways of appreciating art. And I think that that's something that I want to impart on my children. And I think that's really important, which is you have to, you know, some people aren't exposed to a lot of different, I'm thinking specifically to like different art and music, but it's so important for children, I think, to experience different things and to be exposed to those different ways of living, different lifestyles. I remember growing up in a small town in New Hampshire thinking like, okay, everyone here has a pretty good life, has a pretty nice house, has a healthy and happy family. What do they do? Like, is everyone are my only paths in life to become an accountant, to become a sales rep for a big company, to like, what do people do? And as I got older, I realized that there are millions of different paths and careers, and everyone has such a unique story. And yeah, I hope that more and more children get exposed through the internet, especially, to how many different possibilities are out there for people.
I saw this one Instagram scrolling time wasting thing I was doing, and it's life hacks, right? Like there's this one hack where it's, I don't know, you see those 3-pronged candles, and if you light one end of the candle, you can spin it so that it automatically lights the other ones. And it's like, there's always these comments, why do I always learn so much more on the internet than I've learned in my entire 12 years of school? And it's like, well, duh.
You're getting exposed to so many different things.
The internet, man, it's literally everything.
But so many people get trapped. I think, and we also, not to go way into this, but with social media, how it is set up, you're being siloed based on your preferences. Like what you see, what you watch, what you hear is being determined by algorithms that already know your preferences and are just feeding you more of what you want. And you just get deeper and deeper into that silo, oh, I'm on YouTube. Every single time I open up YouTube, my recommendations are the same types of videos. It's like a podcast about technology, like a video about some guy exploring a cool old truck or a motorcycle, and then like a random video about a stand-up comedian. It's like the same crap every single time. I'm not being exposed to, oh, here's a traditional dance from Uzbekistan. And, have you ever tried making this dish from Chiang Mai, Thailand? I don't know. It's almost as if you have to put some effort to expose yourself to new things, even though everything is available on the internet.
It's true. I'm looking at my Instagram right now, and it's UFC.
Yep.
So all sorts of UFC action. It's Maine Coon cats. And it's Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, my flavor sucks. But you're right though.
I'm so embarrassed to open up my Instagram and I see like my Discover page and it's all just like fit dudes. And I'm like, what did I look at that just made Instagram go, you need to just see guys with 6-packs all the time. Like you just need to keep, you're like, man, do you have to consciously like, you scroll past the photo that you want to look at and then you're just like, nope. I need to confuse the algorithm,
Right. Yeah. You need to scramble it. Maybe that's a cool app idea.
Yeah.
Scramble the algorithm.
I did think about that. Something that you could allow to go in with code into your YouTube account and basically just be clicking on a huge diversity of videos.
Yeah, basically a kind of like a pinata of possibility.
Right. I think there may be something that already exists.
There's definitely is. What's always so interesting to me is I love just like brainstorming live. I'm gonna do it a lot more on the podcast. It's just fun. I used to be so not used to be so, but in general, like more reserved with my ideas, because you're always like, oh, what if someone takes my idea? And the reality is it doesn't matter because 1 in 50,000 are actually going to act on the idea.
Right.
It's like everyone had an electric car idea and Elon did it. Are you a doer or not? Most people aren't doers. And then execution is way more important than the idea, right? You can have an idea like, oh, I'm gonna go say hi to that pretty girl, and then all of a sudden homeboy's just sitting here just with Cybo sitting at home just dying. Execution's poor, has to fix the gut first, in general with your life, execution's everything in every aspect.
Yeah, but you know what this makes me think of? I sometimes have this thing in the back of my mind of how important it is to zoom in and to zoom out, to cultivate this ability to zoom into things and then to zoom out and see the macro view of what you're doing, whether that's in work or life or exercise. Sometimes, most of the time it's easy for people to focus on a task, right? They can get into a task, they can get deep into it they lose themselves in their work or whatever they're doing, or a TV show. I mean, it doesn't always have to be productive. But after you spend time getting deep in something, you have to remember to take space to allow those ideas and that work that you've accomplished to marinate, because that's where the most creativity comes from, right? And so you need time to brainstorm and to like shoot the shit, and to not always be trying to, okay, this is the plan. It's going to be step 1, step 2, step 3. I'm going to accomplish this and then this. You have to go out into nature, go for a run, go do something completely different in a completely different context in order to start connecting the dots and to start having new and brilliant ideas. Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, definitely. Like you got to take a step back. And that's why going off on a 2-day hike and going camping and just not being in the day-to-day is so important to your creativity and to look at things from different angles. And that's why brainstorming is so important too.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's why I think mushrooms and ayahuasca is actually a good thing for people to do. Like, just hear me out on this. I know it's crazy, but studies have shown that mushrooms, they increase the neural activity, I think, between the 2 hemispheres. There's this cool graph I saw, maybe I'll send it to you later. It's like, you have your brain when it's sober and you have colors of the communications between the hemispheres, and then on mushrooms, and it's just like lit up with millions more. And how I feel like I've experienced that in real life and actually doing mushrooms or ayahuasca or whatever is that it's given me the space to carve new neural pathways. It's allowed me to connect new dots that otherwise would be completely unrelated. So whether that's going for a hike in nature or whether that's like going and doing mushrooms in nature, those are moments where you're really zooming out and you're allowing all this information to be synthesized together and like experiment putting it together.
One of the only few times I've ever done mushrooms was with you. Was when we we did that hike.
We were hiking. Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
You made a tea, and we were hiking. What was it, like March in New Hampshire? It was beautiful out, but we didn't realize
snow.
Yeah.
Remember how much snow there was?
Every 5th step, you just fall like 2 feet in.
Dude, we were so unprepared.
But it was awesome.
We're wearing like Timberlands and so wet.
If we're gonna talk unprepared, okay, we have to talk Sciatica. Okay.
Oh, true. That's true.
That is definitely one of the most alive feelings I've ever felt, because it was borderline alive and terrifying at the same time.
Dude, I'm glad. That's exactly the experience I wanted us to have.
And I was almost angry at you because of how almost south it went, you know?
Yeah.
Because I remember I was just basically, from my experience, Peter's like, yeah, man, you want to climb this mountain? It's called Sciatica. I'm like, sure, yeah, sounds great.
It's outside of Medellin, about 3 hours.
He's like, it's the largest natural pyramid-shaped mountain in the world. I'm like, that sounds sick, you know? He goes, yeah, it's great. You know, I've actually climbed it twice already. Once with my girlfriend, Paula. And I'm like, oh, so what did she think? She's like, you know, it was pretty tough on her, but you know, she got over it. So I'm asking him, like, so what do you think I need? Like, what should I bring? He's like, yeah, some water, some sneakers. You should be fine. You know, I'm just like, I get up there and I'm like, we just had a backpack with 2 bottles of water, sneakers, and like my jacket, right? And it was sick. And we get there.
GoPro. You got it on the GoPro.
I did get it on the GoPro. Yep. We get there. And first we take like a 3-hour or something to get there. And which was awesome, because you're like, it was just truly just, I don't know, just felt so out of place. But you were
middle of nowhere mountains.
I look like Colombia. Jesus. I had really long really long hair, big beard, just straight Jesus. And I remember we get like, at first you have to go through these like cow fields, and you get dropped off, and we're going through it, and you're like, I'm not really sure where the thing is. And there's these cows like looking at us, and they're like wild ass cows. Like, these cows are like the type of cows that like, they'll stomp on you, you know?
Yeah.
It's sketchy.
That's their territory.
Eventually we get to the mountain, and it's like we start climbing it, and it's legitimately just vertical. It's a vertical mountain. There's nothing to hold on to. And it starts to rain.
Right.
And I getting up was crazy, but going down was way crazier.
True.
Going
It's just
down,
like one, I don't know, like 2,000-foot slide. Just like
like having an
super
ice
steep.
pick. Having an ice pick would have been awesome. Like an ice
Yeah.
pick, because you're on your hands and knees, and you have to.
I mean, most people go with gloves, and they're like, some people bring ropes, and I was like, nah, screw that shit. Like,
yeah, and
you have to do it totally unprepared.
We were just sliding down this mountain, and one wrong move, you would just tumble like 1,000 feet to break bones, unless you caught like a tree on the way down, you know?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
And just that right there.
You have to like sit on your ass, because as soon as, if you like stand up, it's so inclined. If you tripped, it's just, you're done.
Yeah.
So you're like going backwards or on your ass the entire time.
And we have no phone service, so you would have to wait until another crew came up in order to potentially get help. It was just a really stupid survival 101 plan. It was so stupid. And I remember,
you're not the only person I put through that though. I did it 7 times. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, and then when we get done with it, we're trying to find the path. I'm exhausted, and even you're exhausted at that point. Like you're tired too.
For sure.
And we start going, and you're like, I don't know where the path is, and we went the wrong path. And I was out of water, and I was just like, oh my God, we're in the middle of the fucking jungle.
Right.
No water. Peter doesn't know where the path is. These cows look like they're about to have sex with us, and we got to get out of here.
Oh man.
Remember the cows started chasing you. It started chasing you.
Yeah. Actually, I was going to say the first time I did Cerro Tusa, I did it alone. And
that's what's even crazier. That's how psycho you are, but it's awesome.
Yeah, no, I had no idea what I was doing. Like absolutely no idea what I was doing. And actually the first time a cow a bull did chase me at one point after the whole thing. And I had to like slide under this fence and just got covered in cow shit. And I remember having to go back to the town and get a bus home. And I was just sitting in the bus for 3 hours. So sweaty. You get so sweaty on that hike because it's humid, it's strenuous. And I was just covered in cow manure and sweat, just sitting in the bus. And every Colombian on the bus was like, what the? Like, look at this gringo. Like, what is he doing here? So, I mean, every part of that journey to get there, to do it, to come back, just an experience.
And then I remember we didn't have a ride home because we were supposed to meet this guy, and we ended up being like an hour late. So he left.
Right.
So we're sitting on the side of the road trying to hail a random stranger to just like who we found them, the strangers, and they picked us up and barely spoke English, and they drove us to the town. It was pretty magical. Yeah.
Dude, we got to go back to Colombia together.
I know.
Got to do more of these experiences.
I mean, that's so it's so like, if I told my dad that story, like he would be like, you're an idiot. Like he's like, if you're gonna go in the wilderness, you have to be prepared. Like once a year, my dad does this trip to British Columbia, and he's got this really good friend named Wally, and Wally's this guide out there. And basically, people pay a lot of money to go and do steelhead and salmon, like out in British Columbia, like the authentic experience. Wolves, moose, bears, like eagles, like just unbelievable. You take a helicopter to the actual spots. And once you're there, you're alone. There's no cell phone service. Anything can happen. And Wally was saying to my dad once, my dad's in like the raft, right? And they're like going down this thing. He goes, Dave, how do you feel right now? Do you feel pretty comfortable? He's like, yeah, I feel really comfortable. This is great. This is awesome. He's like, never be comfortable. That's how you die in the wilderness. He goes, right now, things look really good, but I'm going to walk the canoe through these mild rapids because of the small chance that there's something in the waters that we're not seeing. It could flip the boat. He's like, okay. Needless to say, 30 minutes in, there was a stump or something from a tree. He's like, you see this? If we didn't do that, you would have capsized, the boat would have capsized, you would have lost all your belongings, you would have lost your glasses, you probably would have survived, right? Like you would have been okay, but you would have lost everything. Right. And it would be gone forever, right? And your whole trip would have been ruined. And he's like, the moment you get comfortable is the moment you make mistakes.
Yeah.
You always have to be on the edge and always thinking about things a smart way. It's like that time, my stupidest story, like my biggest near-death experience was when I almost drowned in Bermuda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love this
I think
podcast.
you told me that.
This is one of my favorite podcasts I've ever done because we're just letting it out.
Can you, yes, tell me about this, because you told me it once, but I don't remember the details.
Yeah, it was just so scary. It was so scary. Oh my gosh. The eye thing was like the scariest thing in my life, but this was the scariest experience. Like even
Were
before.
were you scuba diving?
No, spearfishing.
Okay.
So like it was years back, and me and my buddy, Joe, we went to Bermuda to go scuba diving. Yeah. So we like went there to go scuba diving. We go on trips all around, and we use diving as an experience thing. It's amazing. Scuba diving is just the best. And the night before, we were just really trying to, just find some weed, just simply trying to find some weed. It was just fun. Me and my boy just smoking a little weed. And we couldn't find it anywhere. Like just no one had it. And eventually we met this dude who's like, was working at the bar. And he's like, he gave me his number because we were looking for someone to take a spearfishing the following day. Needless to say, we did a bunch of dives. It was amazing. We were so tired though afterwards, right? The water was really cold. And after 2 deep dives, you're tired. We went back, we're going to go nap. Then that dude we met at the bar, he's a legend. He texted us saying, hey man, I'm at this beach, which was 3 minutes from our Airbnb. He's like, you guys want to go spearfishing? And we're like,
what time is it? What time is it?
It's like 12:30. Like, no, this is like 2:30 p.m.
Okay.
So it's still during the day. And he's like, when we texting him, we're like, nah, we're good. We're playing Risk on our phones. We're just hanging out. We're exhausted. Like, we're just going to chill in. Like, he goes, oh, that's a bummer. Because I brought all this stuff and I can't go without you guys. It's true. It's like a 3-man job to go lionfish hunting. He's like, anyways, it's fine. We don't have to do it, but I have a joint. Do you guys want to smoke? So naturally we're like, hell yeah, that sounds dope. Like, let's go, bro. So we go to the beach, we smoke this joint and having a great time. And then the guy he kind of guilt trips us a little bit. He's like, well, I have all my stuff here. And then my friend Joe's just like, screw it, I'll do it.
Is this a local guy?
He's a local, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we just like met him. He's a friend. I still keep in touch with him today. And then obviously I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to be like a huge bitch. Like I'm going to go too. Right. So dumb idea. He only had half of a wetsuit and 1 full wetsuit. So Joe had a full wetsuit. I had half of a wetsuit. And this is where I made my mistake. When you go lionfish spearing, one person is at the top. There's like a boogie board with a metal or like a plastic tube or a box of sorts. So when you spear a fish, you can put it into it. Right. One person was going down and filming it on a GoPro and the other person was spearing. He was the best. So like he was mostly spearing. But you're going out there, it's, paddling out there on the boogie board and everything's good. I'm realizing I'm getting really cold, but I'm not really worried about it. I'm like, yeah, we're good. We're not that far offshore. Everything's fine. Then like, once we get into it, I'm like, wow, I'm like really freaking cold. I'm like, wow. Then eventually Joe looks at me. He's like, hey bro, you good? You don't look so good. Like you want to go back? Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm okay. Which is stupid. I wasn't okay, but I was just trying not to like ruin the trip. So I was like, but I think I'm just going to swim back. Like you guys just stay. Just because
at that point, what are you shivering? You're just cold.
Yeah. I'm just like shivering. Like I'm not so cold, but I'm just like pretty freaking cold to the point where I don't want to be here anymore, Yeah. And, you need at least 2 people out there in order to continue doing it. Cause one has to hold the boogie board. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I start swimming back and, swim like 50 meters. And then I realized like I'm far from shore. I did not realize it, nor did I realize how drained of energy I was because I was using a boogie board for the whole time. So I'm swimming and I realized like, oh my God, like my bones are freezing up and I don't know if I'm going to make it to shore.
That's really scary.
And then just the weed hit me and I had a full-fledged panic attack in open water.
Oh no.
Just not where you want to be. I'm sitting there
No.
like running through scenarios in my head of how I'm just going to drown and no one's even going to know for like 2 hours. And like,
Right.
what a dumb way. Like, this is how idiots find themselves dead. Like, just stupid decisions that end up in bad situations. Long story, I ended up making it to the top of a reef where I was able to like get my grounding and like hold my shit together. Right. Like, you're going to be good, Jones.
Yeah.
And then I made it to another reef and eventually made it to the shore. It was like, I was like clawing up there. So great.
Yeah.
But it was
Can't
scary.
imagine how when you got to the beach and you just are like, oh my God, I made it.
And it's just looking back, it was stupid. Like, I'm almost embarrassed telling the story, but at the same time, like, these are the stories that teach us lessons in life, right? Like, the ocean is unpredictable. You have to always treat it like so. You never get comfortable. If you get comfortable, you die. Literally, that's how people die. And hopefully that little story teaches you to not be an idiot and be smart and,
It's a fine balance. It really is a fine balance between being reckless and, being like pushing it, but just to the level where it's okay. Because we all want to push the boundary a little bit, but if you are, if you die or you get injured, then you're like, man, I'm so dumb. Like, why did I have to push it just a little too far over the edge?
It's so
where it goes from being exciting to just being absolutely reckless and stupid.
Right. And then where's that line? Like, part of it is the story is amazing because you do it. Like, you telling me to climb Sciatica was like, I'm so grateful I did it now. Like, it's one of my favorite pictures of me just like in the background with Colombia, behind me. It's so beautiful. But at the same time,
you don't know where the line is until you tease it, until you get there.
That is so true. That is so true. And that's like with so much things with life and relationships and business and people and finding the line. And that could be a whole book, Teasing the Line by Peter Cloutier.
There's so many people that never even want to come close to that line. They love the comfort and security of their lives. And I have a lot of people like this in my family. They wouldn't even begin to understand why I live outside of the US. To them, it's such a dumb idea. Why would you want to leave New Hampshire? Why would you want to leave this place that we know, we call home? And I totally understand. And sometimes I do wish I had more like security or more, I don't know, was around family more, things like that. But it's in my DNA to be pushing that line, to try to explore, to try to go out, to be like the Christopher Columbus. Like, I want to get in the boat, not know if I'm ever going to go home, ship off. I don't even know if we're going to fall off the side of the world, but we're going to enjoy trying to find that line. And other people, they have the dog, the kids, the house, and that's just how it is. That's what gets their rocks off, I guess.
Well, the cool thing is that at any point you could just be like, I want to go get the dog, the kids in the house. Like, it's sitting there, and everyone knows. Every girl I've ever met's obsessed with Peter Cloutier. So you can, there's no issue with that. But it's hard to do. It's easy to do that. It's easy to be comfortable. It's easy to settle down. And there's going to be a point in our lives where like naturally we want to have families and do that stuff, right? But you could, would you see yourself living in South America long term, like setting up and buying land in Guatemala, or?
I could see myself having property definitely long term, and being here for a long time, but maybe not necessarily being here forever, or it being the only home that I have. But I do like the idea of having kind of a more nomadic family, because I want to give my children those experiences too. But it's funny because kids always rebel against what they know. So if I have a family in which I'm bringing my family constantly around the world and giving my children these experiences of different countries, you never know. They may completely flip to the other side when they're adults and just want to live in upstate New York and just, I don't know, just be there all the time and not want to travel. So.
Yeah, that stuff. So that's why I'm grateful we had this podcast. I'm grateful that you can speak on your experiences and teach people that it's possible to just go off to a new country, not knowing the language, and be a savage. It's definitely way easier for a guy to do it than a female. Like that's probably for sure. Would you agree with that? Just because of the safety issues?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true. But I know so many badass girls that are just great role models for that. Like it's true that it's not as safe for girls. Like that has to be accepted, that, you know, they face a lot of difficulties in Latin America, in any place in the world, but Latin America, I think some parts of Asia as well, especially India. I have a lot of friends who are avid travelers who are kind of turned off by the idea of solo girl traveling, female traveling through India. But, you know, you just have to take it day by day and plan accordingly.
Well, let's pick like a 2 weeks period and let's go explore something, or like a month period, and let's go to a new country and send it.
I think we should rent motorcycles together and go through. I've been thinking more and more about Central Asia. It's a place that nobody goes. Well, people go, but it's not like a popular travel destination. Like all of the stands, you know, Kyrgyzstan, Azerbaijan, which is in a stan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. Like you don't hear about people going there and traveling around. It would be such a cool place to travel.
I agree. I want to start, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff with this Damn Good Day stuff. And I would love to make a lot of Damn Good Day travel experiences.
Yeah.
Trying to find out how different cultures have good days.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. I'm always down to help.
Anyways, this is one of the longest podcasts we've done. I'm super grateful. I appreciate you. I'm grateful for everyone that listened. We out here, Peter, my man, the legend. I still have the lion painting you painted for me in college. It's on my wall. It's one of my favorite things ever. Extremely talented, the vegan, the vegetarian, the reckless, motorcycle robbing person. So grateful to have you on the show. I appreciate you and excited for this to come out.
Yeah, dude. Thank you.
Until next time.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Len Jones Party of Two. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review and subscribe to stay up to date on our new episodes. And remember, hope is not a strategy. Keep making moves. Till next time, peace.